Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hey guys,
How
a
has
wonderful day in the neighborhood.
how has your Wednesday treated you guys today?
Fine. I
Pretty
stayed
decent so
home.
far.
Didn't do anything. Snowing. It's windy. What's my day off?
You got to stay home? Darn. I have to work when I stay home.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, my
I'm
day
home
exploded with
now.
work stuff.
No, I'll have to do more work after I sign off. Kind of had a slow start, so yeah.
Yeah, I woke up to a bunch of emails. We need all this stuff changed today. Yay.
Okay.
So, today I want to talk a little bit about dancing monkeys and short-term culture. And this doesn't have to be a long one, guys. If you want to wrap it up quick, we can. It sounds
let's try.
yeah, right. I mean,
When does
Nick
that
and I
happen?
have stuff to do, but it sounds like Steve, you're bored. So
No, I'm willing to wrap it up early, but when the three of us get talking, damn, it just stretches out.
yeah. So this concept of dancing monkeys, it's something that I think we've raged about or talked about a lot in just like, why do these people keep saying, oh, just do this and you'll get what you want? Just it's everyone just says, just do this and
Money, muscle, status, game. You talking about that? I'm jumping the shark. Not the shark. I'm just jumping ahead.
Jumping ahead,
phrase.
because we keep now the kind of the most obvious dancing monkey is the media monkey, the fame and status monkey, right? Just
Okay.
That's kind of the one that everyone thinks of. Do whatever it takes to get the attention of your audience and get them to give you whatever it is you're looking for.
Sounds like you're whoring yourself out.
Well, yeah.
Oh, there's a certain 2-word phrase, or we're not 8 minutes in, but yeah, somebody making all this money off of showing their bodies and other acts.
Well, actually, that's a. I mean, if you want to talk, I mean, we're 8 minutes in. Okay, well, guys, we got to come up with another 5 minutes of ways to not say OF, right?
Oh, there you go.
But I mean, isn't that exactly what they're doing? They are dancing monkeys for, in this case, they're dancing monkeys for men and men's money. But one of the things that even brought up this topic was the Sophie Rain has been making these rounds on Twitter, and yes. Because she's saying, oh, I'm a virgin and I'm a Christian.
Yeah, hasn't she made a lot of money?
$43 million in 1 year.
Wow.
Man, that's being very productive.
Well, I mean, men, $43 million to a woman to jiggle her booty on the internet. Seriously? So, we can go ahead.
That's a sign of the death of society right there.
Well, she does it because it works. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, and people pay for that. And you make all that money by doing that crap today. Man, society's in bad shape.
And this is one where I kind of have to look at the guys and I have to go, seriously? This is, we'll get into the guys later, but seriously?
Just do what the audience wants. Well, that's kind of what politicians do. They have the group that they try to tie into that can get them the most votes.
Oh yeah, politicians. It's a great dance example of dancing monkeys.
What do you think Trump did? And I'm not saying like I'm not disparaging his character. He's shown an exemplary character in some instances, and some instances not so much. But
Right.
he's a populist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He got his new position and old position by appealing to more voters than the other guy did. And how did he do that? Well, he came up with
He figured out what gave him what they wanted.
promised that. Well, but see, this is an interesting. Uh, this is an interesting thing because he hasn't actually done much yet. I mean, and he's not even
No.
president yet. Now, some
Right.
things have changed simply because he is coming, and he will be, and people know that, and they're getting ready for it. But he and we have said on this show before, it was during our gaps episode, that there's a lot of things that he's promised that he's not actually going to be able to do.
Wait. He's not going to take away women's rights?
No.
Oh, I'm so disappointed now.
In fact, he's the guy who is famous for saying during COVID, we need to get these lockdowns over so that women can get back to work.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
That whole, he's going to take away my rights. Man, how naive are you?
Well, how programmed are you? I mean, the guy is actually very pro-woman. So, like, don't if you think he's going to take away your rights, well, that says way more about you than it does him, and how much you don't know about him.
Even if he wanted to, he couldn't do it. The president does not have that much power. He's not a dictator. It has to get passed through Congress, and even then, you got all the regulators, you got the whole inertia of the system. You can't just snap your fingers and change anything.
Well, and the other thing to consider is despite his pretty epic popular vote win, somehow he managed to get fewer House seats than last session. I think the final seat in California was called for a Democrat, so I think we're actually fully set now. If I read it right, and he's got like 2 votes where it used to be 3 or 4, depending on. He's not gonna 2 defectors in the House. He ain't gonna get most of his agenda through. Let's just be honest. But he danced better than Kamala. Not that was particularly hard. I mean, he was even famous for doing his YMCA shuffle dance, right? So, but he danced better than Kamala did. Okay, well, there you go. So
that I still believe that the powers that be, the elite, whoever, the moneyed interests, looked at the playing field, Kamala or Trump, and decided, nah, she's not going to do it. And they put their influence behind Trump and supported him and spent some money to get his, sway his beliefs, and basically tried to bribe him. We'll see if they did. But they have a lot of influence. They don't put all their cards, they don't bet on one candidate.
no,
And,
Put all their eggs in one bucket.
We're screwed now. No. They hedge their bets.
Oh yeah.
And they're probably betting on both sides evenly.
Yeah, there was somebody who was looking at campaign finance donations, and you could look at it and go, you just compare them to the last one. It's like Kamala was not getting the donations that Biden got. So yeah, the money and interests, and you could even see it on Twitter. There was an actual fight amongst the billionaires class. You had some billionaires going one way, or very multi, like three-digit millionaires. Like Mark Anderson and stuff like that. And there's some real money behind Trump this time, and that really wasn't there in 2020. It's like, okay, whatever. We're not going to relitigate that. Yeah, tactics, exactly. They find both sides to optimize their interest, and yeah, you're right. You can't really fault them for doing that. They have enough money to do it. It is in their interest to do it. Okay, it is what it is. So, you know, but but the politicians are the dancing monkeys in
Okay.
in this scenario, and that's I've got three kind of general categories: fame or status. So you've got the Sophie Rain fame, you've got the politicians. They're not so much famous, but they have a lot of status, and they certainly have a lot of, well, I don't know if politicians themselves have a lot of power, but we certainly treat them like they do. So,
Oh, yeah, clout chasers too.
oh well, yeah. Clout chasers. Well, because clout chasing is probably the most base and banal of the dancing monkeys. Because in that case, you're saying, oh, well, I see what this person's doing and it's working, so I should just do the same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, I can't even fault them for it because it does work. But it only works in the short term.
Sure.
And, I mentioned, this is dancing monkeys and short term culture. Well, when you're a dancing monkey, be it a politician where you're concerned about the next 2, 4, maybe 6 years if you're a senator, and in Trump's case, he can't even be reelected again. He'll have done his 2. So he only has to care about the next 4 years. If you're a clout chaser, you only have to care that this particular form of clout grifting works for as long as it works, and then because of your strategy, you're just going to move on to the next one. And with figures like Sophie Rain, okay, she's popular now, and we in the Red Pill, we talk about this all the time. She's popular now. Next year it'll be somebody else.
Well, it's kind of like the red pill queen, right?
Yeah, we've
We
talked
we
about the
talked
Red Pill
about that
Queen.
on. No, there's always going to be one. They all want to be the queen of the manosphere or whatever, and then they get it there, and then they fade away, and then there's another one.
Yeah. Now I find it interesting that even in this space, men and women follow their roles, if you will, their natural order. Women tend to be more of the the attention comes to be where men, they're politicians and they have to go out and seek it and build it up, right? I can't just become the president of the United States. Nobody knows me, right? I can't just say I'm going to be the president and here's what I'm going to do. Nobody cares. Where women can just go on OF and get attention for nothing, but they get dropped, they get replaced. So men are constantly fighting to replace, to supersede and replace other men, where women are just kind of like, yeah, you're not it right now.
Well, here's the other. Got to move my mic there. Women do things to seek attention and notoriety of men.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the women follow. But unless you get the attention of the men, not much happens. It does it getting attention and drawing in a lot of women to behind your cause doesn't really work. You know, I mean, you're gonna get a certain faction, but you're not gonna get a broad following of women. Correct me. You
Yeah.
know, push back if you think I'm wrong. 'Cause
Well,
I'm throwing it out there to see if it makes sense.
I'm thinking back to the gaps episode where we did all that data, and one of the things that changed for Trump this year was he got a lot more female vote, a lot more, just by percentage than he did in 2020 and even 2016. He did way better with the women this time.
Well, let me say it the other way. Kamala didn't seem to get a broad following of women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly there's some the liberal women were absolutely behind her. But the more conservative type women, no, not really.
Right. Well, I think she thought that the women would just because she was it's team woman.
Hmm.
You know, Kamala is a woman, so therefore I will get the woman vote. She just kind of treated it as fait accompli, and it wasn't. I
And
hadn't
that was a big push too.
Tacticus. I hadn't even thought of this, but you are right. And I saw this stuff growing up because MLM was popular in the 90s. But you're right. All the successful MLMs run on females. Yeah. I had not even thought of that. Huh. Cool. So those are kind of your fame status monkeys. But in all of this, your focus, and we're going to see this throughout kind of where we're going. All of this is your focus is on just getting what you can for yourself for as long as you can get it. Like, okay, Sophie Rain, okay, great. You made $43 million next year. When you don't make that next year because you're no longer the it girl, hopefully you didn't spend all of that $43 million already and you've got some left over, because there will be a day when you're not the it girl anymore. And I think she is trying to set herself up to be the next Nala.
Okay.
No, I mean she comes out and says, "Oh yeah, I'm a virgin, I'm a Christian." Look, whether or not it's true, you're selling your body on OnlyFans to desperate men. You know, I'm sorry, what else did you expect? You know, like what else was I supposed to say? It's you're still a whore. The fact that you
It was only oral.
right. But
I
she has succeeded because she's willing to dance. But it's going to destroy her, and it's going to destroy her fairly soon. Like it destroys all these women. It's a few years and they're out. Destroyed.
I sent you to the link to a YouTube stream I watched called "From Housewives to Hoes." Two women discussing their history. They're now divorced and kind of out there. Live in Portland. Need I say more?
Of course.
But you know, they were married for 11 and 16 years and had their up, somewhat, well, they were Christian in their youth.
Of
One
course.
girl says, yeah, she had a low body count, but in high school she was known as the BJ Queen. Okay.
That's a high body
There's
count.
nothing new.
Well, I mean, we all know that the girls are going to come up with infinite ways to slice and dice sex so that they don't have a high body count. The easiest way to define body count is how many distinct penises have you seen? Like there you go. That's that's the best way to
Yeah,
describe it.
you may have heard me say this. Their body count includes all that count and none of them that don't count and none of them they can't remember.
Yes. But these girls, they come and they go. So one of the things that dancing monkeys create, or that, and we could argue this either way, or that creates dancing monkeys, is short-term culture. I'm just here to get what I can as quick as I can, and that's it. I don't care about tomorrow. I mean, it was such a popular phrase in the 2000s. Oh, I don't care. I just live for today. Well, great. You kept living for today, and now we don't have a culture. The infrastructure is a crumbling mess. Chief, that's actually a good word. Mercenary. I like that word. That's a good word. It is. It's mercenary. And mercenary works for you. Like I can absolutely guarantee that if you go out there and you just be a raging mercenary, you're just going to take as much as you can get as fast as you can get it. You will get it. Just don't be the person holding that particular bag of excrement when the world falls apart, because all of the stuff you got will not save you. We've talked about that before in other streams. Like we talked about, what does it actually take to survive in a grid down situation? Well, the guys who've actually had to live in situations like that will tell you it isn't all your stuff, it isn't all your money, it's who you know. And if all you've done is take from society, everyone around you is going to hate you. They're not going to want to help you when things go to shit. So that short-term planning leads to long-term consequences, just like it does for the women. Of course, their long-term consequences are they can't find a man that they think they deserve, and all the female delusion that goes into that.
Well, we're going to find out. It's not going to be grid down. Doesn't even have to go that far.
You're right, it doesn't.
We have not really experienced a significant or a deep recession really in my entire life. I'm 62.
Yeah.
Okay, so got in the workforce. Well, okay, we graduated from high school, 81. Stock market took off. Yeah, we had that blip in 87. Yeah, things took a little while to get going in the early 80s. We had a little blips there. And then it took off from there to 2000. Oh, wait, that was, what was it? The computer, what did they call that?
The dot-com crash.
No. When all the computers were going to crash.
Oh, 2000.
Millennium thing.
Yeah, my uncle made a bunch of money off of that.
Y2K, yeah. Okay, well, that didn't really crash it. Yeah, we had some minor recessions. Yeah, 2008. In that time frame, yeah, the stock market crashed, the housing market crashed, but we recovered pretty easily. I mean, yeah, it really hurt a lot of people. It wasn't prolonged.
Mm-hmm.
Most people kept their jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, tech suffered quite a bit in some other industries, but I can't say I've really suffered through any tough economic times in my entire life. I think we're due. And it's not going to be the end of the world, but it's going to be some tough times. And then it's not about you. It's about coming together with your friends to getting through things, people you can trust. And it's going to be particularly difficult for women if if they're unclaimed women. Women without a man
Oh.
are going to have difficulty. And it
So
doesn't.
the Isaiah
Okay,
3 does turn to Isaiah 4.
Always does.
it does not need to be grid down, does not need to be the end of the world, but a deep recession
Mm.
would do it.
You actually saw. We can look back at other major recessions, depressions, even, and you'll see the same thing. Look at the 1920s versus the 1930s. 1920s you had flappers and it was 1920s was a very big time for the communist era of movement. It was a big time for feminism. 1920s was huge for feminism. And then by the end of the mid, really, yeah, we'll go with mid. By the mid 1930s, all those same women are very quietly wifed up, pumping out kids, cleaning houses, doing all those things they said they'd never do. The Great Depression was not, and I don't think a lot of people understand what it was. I mean, because we all look at the bread lines and all of that, and that was all true. But it like if you were a high net worth individual, you just had less, so you had to fire your servant, right? And if you were in the middle class, you just kind of maybe you sold your car and you had to get a horse instead, or it's kind of like what Steve said. It wasn't that you went yes, of course we talk about the stories of the people who went from everything to nothing, but that wasn't the norm. The norm was you just had less. And there was a huge amount of marriage going on at the time because even back in the 1920s, women were working. It was more what we would call nightclub type stuff too, yes. But
So after that happened, and the women of the 20s became more conservative, shall we say,
yeah.
how long did they stay conservative?
So that's a fascinating question. My grandma grew up during the Great Depression. She was conservative for her whole life. This scarred her permanently. And interestingly enough, if you look at when the great feminism movement starts, it wasn't with that generation that grew up and came of age in the Great Depression. It was with their kids.
Yeah. So it was a big enough shock. Then a reset. Everything went back to traditional
Ish.
families. Yeah. Those women never,
Necessity.
for the most part, didn't go back to their liberal ways. Their kids did. And so I'd say from the 30s until the 60s,
Yep.
and just consider sexual conservatism. Sexual conservatism existed for about 30 years.
Yep. Yeah. 30 years. That's a lot. That's an entire woman's fertility range. From like and that's being generous with the boundaries here because technically it's 14, 15 all the way up to 45, right?
No, that's
But
technically 30 years.
right, exactly. So but it's interesting that ends up being the range. Now, I think part of what happened in the 60s was those mothers always resented the fact they might have never changed. They might have always stayed conservative, but they always resented the fact they had to do that. And so their thought process was, we're going to go build a better world where my children can be what I wanted to be. Now, I don't know if that's like what they were, it's hard to say, what they were all collectively thinking. It's really hard to get good data from back then. But I'm just listening to my grandparents talk about that time. They they were never going to go back to that lifestyle themselves, and they knew it, but they desperately wanted their kids to be able to afford that lifestyle. And the boomers did it. They built that world. Man, this was not the direction I was expecting this one to take, but yay, I love it.
Hey, you're in charge. You have to, guide us where we're going.
Well, so I mean, the next one that I kind of had like these three categories of dancing monkeys, and that was the fame status one. And it ends up being that you get to the crash and there's this big swing back to conservatism, as Steve said. So this is about the end of where I want to be. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The church. Oh boy, here we go. I need that meme, here we go again. The church, and we've talked about this a lot, and I'm sure Nick has much more to say on this, but the church wants a bunch of dancing men to be a bunch of dancing monkeys too.
Oh yeah.
What do we call that in church, Nick?
Oh, simps.
Servant leadership, maybe?
Oh, servant leader. Yeah, basically same thing.
Yeah. The church just wants you to, I say, submit to your woman. They want you to submit to your woman. And how you're going to lead her is by praying harder, bro. Just pray harder. Just pray more.
Just love more, sacrifice more, ignore your own needs and your own goals. She is your mission. And the church will be there to keep you in check, to bash you down if you ever have any thoughts of being the ruler of your home. And if you just pray together more, nothing bad will happen. Oh, but it's got to be got to pray. She's your partner. So she needs to lead in prayer too sometimes.
We have to share. Oh, okay. Wow. I don't think we've talked about that one at all. But so kind of what's happening here is the church is telling men, oh yeah, all you need to do to keep a wife is just give her what she wants. Oh, dance, monkey, dance. Do that. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Why? I just came up with a theory on this, but why do you guys think they do that?
Oh, well, the theory I have, and we've talked about it in passing before, is that the church is staring down the barrel of a massive crisis of single women.
Yeah.
And their theology was adapted to it.
You know what? I'm going to tell you my theory, and it goes in a different direction.
Okay, go ahead.
As men, most men aren't leaders. We don't want to really stand out. We want to avoid risk. We want to go along to get along. And there are a few men who really have the integrity to say, nope, not doing that. I'm going to act on principle, come hell or high water. Very few men have that. So men are always doing this calculation. Well, which is the more peaceful route? What should I do? Which is easier? And in general, it always seems easier to appease the women than to piss off the women. And very few men are the strong leaders we need. So it's just kind of appeasement by default that leads us down this path. And, most of the church leaders are appeasers. Because if you, and it even shows up, if you don't appease or please the women, you're probably not going to be successful in your church, especially in in the larger churches because the donations just won't be there unless you play nice with the women. What do you say to that, Nick?
Oh, well, generally the big mega churches, that's what we call them, the entertainment centers. Yeah, they're all driven by a lot of emotionalism, immature thinking, immature theology, getting people in the doors. So they're going to appeal to what people want. That's why they have all their crap. That's why they can't ever make a stand on anything in culture. But it's all, oh, we'll lodge a complaint and move on. Um, Also, I was just thinking, this is kind of the same thing we've talked about before. It's the same mentality. Um, they're teaching men to dry if they're married. They're teaching men to be dancing monkeys, but also to be sexually frustrated because this attitude will dry her up like the Sahara Desert.
Well, that's the outcome. Is that a goal?
No, that's short-term thinking. You think they really have that much long-term thinking besides the
No.
money, the checkbook being balanced?
No, they most of them don't. And Tacticus is actually he's on fire tonight in the comments. So I'm gonna pull this one up. Modern box Gurch. I like that. Uh, it, they employ the club model, the club and bar model. Retain the ladies, attract the gents. That's what they think is going to happen. So
Oh,
you
wow.
have to
Yeah.
you have to push a theology that means that God's princesses are perfect. Funny enough, I was watching last night a sermon by Pastor Joel Webben, and he talks about exactly this. How there's all these pastors out there who they cannot talk. They say anything about the women, and you can hear the gasps. He was talking about um, basically he was talking about culture and how you need long-term thinking to create a culture, and he was talking about consequences in that culture, and he said, well, okay, if a woman falsely accuses a man of SA and he gets convicted for it and then it's found to be not true, then she should get the same conviction. If
Mhm.
and if we as Christians say, well, we should execute the SAer, well, then he should get the execution herself if it's found to be a false claim. And you could hear the audience in his church. This is Pastor Joel Webben, right? You could hear his audience gasp. And he then turns around, starts picking on him for it, saying, yeah, you're right. I can hear you gasping out there at that.
That's the type of crap that got me in trouble.
Right, exactly. Now, his church, I think at this point they do kind of expect it from him.
They expect it, yeah.
But, we're talking here. If you want to build a culture that can actually, a society that can actually stand, that was what his sermon was more about. You have to be willing to approach things like this. And the church, but here's the thing. You know what guys in that church won't do? They won't dance. Because in order for
Is it
that
because they're
model
Baptist?
well, for his model to work, for his model of society to work, you need guys who will stand up and they will say, nope, yet we know this punishment sucks, but you did it. And now we have to deliver. We have to deliver judgment is what I mean. It's kind of well, Joel could lose members over saying stuff like that. The Christian media, when I went and searched this particular sermon, it's done a couple months ago. The Christian media was trying to vilify him again. At this point, I think he doesn't care, but right,
That's
it's
the way
just
to be.
right. But it's like they are more interested in the monkeys dancing, because when the monkeys don't dance, the monkeys might actually enforce some sort of rules, and the monkeys might actually start to think for themselves. And we cannot have that, particularly if you're a egalitarian type church, or even a complementarian church with their servant leadership nonsense. If the monkeys ever thought for themselves, they might start to go, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't work. I don't know, Nick, what say you?
Well, then they have basically they'd be recognized to be the wolves that they are. Sham pastors, cowards, effeminate cocksuckers. Yeah, that's
Well,
what you
there's,
are. And
there's
that's what you're
another tell
peddling.
here.
And oh no, can't have people awakening. Can't have a real awakening of the mind and perhaps even the heart.
Okay, awakening. In one of those types of churches, it might apply to damn near every church, every denomination. if they're teaching a certain thing, and there's a monkey that won't dance out there, and he comes up, and solid guy, and he says, "You know what? This theology, I need to question this because I think there's something wrong here." And he pushes, and he says, "What about this? What about this? What about this? I'm using logic and reason, and I have biblical support for my thought, and I think you're wrong." What happens to him? Man, he's not liked at all. He's not going with the flow. He's challenging. You don't want your monkeys to challenge things. They're just supposed to, drink the Kool-Aid, go with what they're told to do. Be a good little monkey.
Yeah, Shu, you're right. In my area, there's a Eastern Orthodox church. I want to say they're Greek, where they were openly celebrating the Skittles party people. Come to our Eastern Orthodox church. We support the Skittles crowds. Oh yes, this isn't a big left-leaning city, and I get that that's their audience, but they were all over Facebook. They had on Facebook, you guys, if you remember, you could do the thing where you could like take your profile picture and then put the flag over it. They had that done, and I was just sitting here going, and these guys are the 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 least of the captured. And I'm not going to say that all Protestant churches are worse than that, because they're not. But every pastor, I think, feels like they have no choice but to sit here and tiptoe around all of this bullshit ideology. And because if they don't,
let's just say this happens across the board.
yeah,
Whether it's the evangelical, whether it's the independent, non-denominational, mainstream denominations, Presbyterian, Orthodox, Catholic, the same things are happening everywhere. We're not saying, this one's better than the others. No. Nope, they're not. You're going to find single churches in different areas that are different, that may be a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But under the surface, no, they're not. Hey, remember, I live in Fargo. We have one of the more conservative Catholic dioceses in the country. It's not over the top. You wouldn't notice it. But, they're more reverent and they, you know, just the culture's a little bit more conservative. Still, my ex-wife went to the priest, told him a story. He kind of bought into it and kind of gave her de facto approval to proceed down the divorce path. Okay, I don't care where you go, even if it appears to be traditional, more traditional on the surface. Underneath, they're not patriarchal. No, they're still swayed by the woman's sob story. And we know very well, I mean, those of us in the red pill, that a lot of times, well, a lot of times, the majority of the times, it's exaggerated and made up. What Terrence Popp said, he talked to a cop. 80% of the SA filings by women were found to be unfounded. That came from a police officer. Now, 1-to-1, I don't know if the statistics will back that up because, the official statistics can be manipulated because that sounds really bad. But from a detective or a guy in his, okay, that's just one precinct, one police force, but 85% were unfounded.
I think
Yet it's
uh
happening.
I think Rollo had a lawyer guy on one time, I forgot his name. But I think he said had some other statistics that confirmed that as well. I'm not sure if it's on SA or DV, but
Well, the other thing to consider here is there might be when you're building a study, how you select your data sets is of critical importance to the point where we have a term for this called selection bias. So it could be that the cop
yeah,
is
that's
saying,
who it
yeah,
was. Yeah,
James Sexton,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Um,
that's who it
it
was.
it
Oh,
it could be that this cop is saying, oh yeah, 80% of the ones that I see, yeah, they're unfounded, which by the way is a legal term that means that there is no legal foundation for prosecution. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing that happened there. It's just that there's nothing that they can take to a prosecutor and say, hey, you can do something with this. And I think this is one
Yeah,
of the well, I think this is one of the ways they can play with the stats, right? They can say, "Oh, well, there
right.
was nothing there, so we don't have to include those, right? Because they don't count." You can play with
True
stats like
enough,
that.
but large percentage of that, she's outright lying.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is the study might make it seem like there's all this SA going on because of how they're selecting over that data. I actually think the cops probably being generous with the number there, but when you're building a study over data like that, I would actually take the cops' raw data over the study data because of how they can mess with the selectors.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, take it for what you will, guys, but having read a lot of studies and they call it p hacking, and there's all sorts of cool ways to do it. And having read a lot of studies, I can tell you that way more studies than you would hope, there's some p hacking going on, looking for the answer that they want. So, well, Nick, I had another thought though on the church thing, and that was
okay.
we the church is often accused of being, oftentimes by even us, of being weak and effeminate. I'm wondering if that's to the church's benefit, or at least they think that way, because one of the things that we hear from people who accuse the church of things is, oh well, the church is a system of control. It's a system for controlling people. Right, and it's like, okay, but what what if they're not wrong about what the church is doing? They're just wrong about the supposed effect that it's having on the church, because they would tell you that it's trying to control people in a certain more conservative way and they want to be more liberal. But what if the church is exercising control, i.e. men dance for the women, and the purpose of that is actually to push a more liberal progressive agenda? I don't know. I'm throwing that one out there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's intentional, but it is the Kool-Aid they've been drinking for a long time. And it's the culture that they're inundated with. And look, a lot of these guys that run the churches, they're terrified of their wives. They appear like they have it all together, a lot of these elders, but no, you start prying into it, you see they all want to act like they're better than one another, and they're scared to let one another know. But a lot of times you start prying in, you see massive dysfunction, you see the children leaving the faith. I mean, look, sometimes not you can do everything right and you'll have a child go astray. I get it.
Yeah.
But in massive numbers, you have your children are feminist and feminine kids. They want nothing to do with the church. Look, and they don't hold those children generally accountable, and they don't hold the wives accountable, but they always discipline the men. And I'm not saying you should discipline the men for actual sins, but hey, you need to be doing your job properly, blindly, in a sense, having equal standards for all. Well, equal standards for the laity. Of course, you're held to a higher standard as an officer in the church. I'll put it that way. But
Well, okay. So, but I want to continue on that thought for just a little bit, because what you're saying, the kids leaving, is that it?
yeah,
Could it be that the kids are recognizing that the church is being hypocritical, and they're like, well, if the church is going to be hypocritical, I'll go find something that isn't, or that doesn't appear to be hypocritical, like, say, progressivism, particularly in college, because in college you get the whole
mhm.
Marxist spiel thrown at you and it sounds really nice, right? So,
A lot of the younger women will deconstruct because they've been taught feminism, practically speaking, and the parents send them off to college and basically raise them to be feminists, but then they're mad when they turn into feminists. And the men, the boys, they see all this crap. They're like, I don't want nothing to do with this. I don't want to be ridiculed for being a man. I don't want to
yeah.
be browbeaten. No, I
Well,
don't need to just go here and have some crappy hymns or entertainment music and never really being challenged for anything that
Yeah.
actually matters, just being beaten down every day. Nah,
Well,
I don't want that.
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, if the church wasn't being, and its leadership in particular wasn't being so hypocritical, and maybe it was actually challenging people and challenging these children to be good Christian children, maybe the church would be doing better. I
yeah, you guys are missing something.
Okay.
Nick said it earlier when he was talking about the elders and the leaders and about them being controlled by their wives. Okay, yeah, okay, these kids are seeing the culture of the church, but they're seeing the weakness and the failure of their father. And I think it's rebellion against the father. Because, yeah, my dad's weak. He's full of shit. He's going along with this. Mom rules the roost. He's not sticking to his morals. Therefore, there's no substance here. Then they look to the culture and say, yep, the rest of it's crap too.
But at least it's crap that makes sense to, or appears to make sense. It appears consistent. It doesn't, but, or it isn't, but
Well, the culture of the church I'm talking about.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
local, okay, my father is a church guy. He says this, but he acts this way. Something's just not sitting right. Then I look at all the people in this local church culture, and it's all artificial, fake. So I'm going to go to the broader culture, the modern culture, the alternative culture, and I'm going to try that. They don't even think about whether that's fake or consistent or anything.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. All because now it's not my intention to say it's, you know, one thing is directly derivative of others. There's lots of things that goes into making this kind of culture in the church. But if your culture in the church is just, we need men to be these good little helper monkeys, these good little dancing monkeys for us who just do what they're told because either they're scared of their wives or, the church just needs men to just do what, to just take care of these women because these women will come complain to me, as the pastor, if I don't want to have to listen to these anymore. So I'm going to get up there and give yet another sermon about man bad. Then I don't see how, I honestly don't see how the church can even help solve the problems we're in at this point. And I've mentioned that before, but because the church's culture is sick, which is, Steve, what kind of you were saying. The church's culture is sick, and so it's on the sideline and
Yeah.
can't help.
And it doesn't matter if you're a trad cath. It doesn't matter if you're Orthodox. It doesn't matter if you're like a conservative Protestant, Reformed, Presbyterian, Lutheran, whatever you want to call it. This is all the way across the board. And don't think that just because if you pray more that and that and like I was on Pearl's show, don't just think just because you pray more or that you support the right patriarchy. Look, praying's not bad. You should pray with your wife. Yes, I think the patriarchy is the right structure, the correct structure. That's still not going to save you if they decide to step out on you. If they press the self-destruct button. the
Nick and I had a little conversation before he was going on. He wanted my take, and so I ranted for a bit. But one of the things he said, well, is it partner prayer or is it a hierarchical prayer?
Right, it does matter.
What's the format of the relationship between the husband and wife? You know what? Nobody talks about that. You can't
Right.
both approach God as equals and pray in that way and then expect everything to work out right because you don't have the proper order. Nobody talks about that. The family that
Mhm.
prays together stays together.
Until they stop praying together.
And if you would assume that there are people in the church, couples, families that actually do pray.
Yeah, that's a
Okay,
good
and
thing.
it's a good thing. So we should see, okay, let's say 20, 30% of the people who go to church actually pray together. In that case, you should see a measurable difference in the divorce rate of Christians
Yes, you
versus
should.
non-Christians.
Yes.
But there's virtually no difference. So even if you'd assume most people don't pray together and that's why they're getting divorced, some do, but yet there's hardly any difference. So I don't think that is the magic answer.
Well, so
I
there's
think
an
there's
interest.
something more to it.
Okay. I think I know the statistical game they're going to try to play with that. So you used 30% and you were fading it out there, but I'm just going to say he was using 30% and that is that is a very, very generous number for the families that actually hardcore, we're going to pray multiple times a day. That is very generous. Okay. Most families, I would say it's probably closer to 15% that 10 or 15% that actually do that in the church. Okay. What they're going to try and say is, yeah, but that's the 30% that's not getting divorced. Nope. The divorce statistics cut straight down the line of those families too, because the church has told these, it's like Nick, what you were saying. The church has basically given these women so much power that their men are afraid of them.
Yep.
They're and I'm going to go out and I'm going to say this, but I think that the man's fear is justified.
Well, he
And
knows if he has any sense, he'll know that she could blow up the marriage, right? Ruin
yeah,
his reputation.
yeah,
And he's also afraid of her because if he offends her, she's going to withhold box.
right. So I think his fear is justified. Now we can sit here as, big red pill, strong, masculine men and say, well, he shouldn't be. But as Steve was saying, most men aren't leaders.
Yeah, only in the red pill are you going to figure out that, you know what? If you appease her, you'll get less box. If you stand up and actually offend her from time to time, you'll actually get more. Yes, it's counterintuitive.
It's true though. Tactics. Yes, this is another one. And this guy actually tried to say this on Pearl's stream yesterday. The race, because the church peddles state marriage. No, that's nope. I mean, we know that's wrong, but you're right. They do try to say that, oh, well, the church, and that's one of the arguments this guy was trying to make is, oh, well, if they just practice traditional marriage. And
It doesn't exist because you're LARPing or role playing. Yeah, you might believe that's both of you might believe that is what it is, and that may keep you together and you can practice it. But the moment one person decides no, it's over.
yeah, well, and it's the other thing I was thinking about this is it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because he can keep saying that right up until it doesn't work for him.
Right. I've been
And
there.
then he has
I've been there.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
Been there.
All the guys in the church who divorced thought that that Christianity was going to save their marriage too. Nope.
Oh yeah. Nope.
Okay, just for historical purposes, I want to document this. Nick was on with Pearl Davis yesterday. Yesterday was December 3rd. The name of the stream is You Know Nothing About Marriage. The Tradition Family Will Save Us. So he was on there with some the Catholic blogger, streamer was on there first. And then Nick was on with Terrence Popp. And Terrence Popp did most of the talking. Nick he said a few things, but man, what Nick said was absolutely on target. And I encourage people to go back and look at that stream because it was a good one. And we look forward to having doing some collaboration with Terrence Popp in the future.
So, Chief, yeah, I watched it. Nick did great. And as I was listening to that guy, I'm like, there's only one way he's going to learn. And that's when she leaves him. And here's another thought.
Don't wish it on anyone. No, don't wish that on anyone. No.
I don't either. But this is a guy. This is the kind of guy who's going to who and I have seen this in the church so much. Well, my marriage didn't end, but yours did.
Good
So
for you.
you're a failure.
Huh.
You
Okay.
are the failure because yours did and mine hasn't. And look, half of marriages don't end in divorce. So there's a 50-50 chance that this guy makes it through to the end of the game and he's okay. And he is going to have he's going to have this diluted view of the world for the entire time. So I mean, Chief, yeah, we could try to walk him through it, but he won't believe it until it, because this is part, we've talked about the Nietzschean narrative before, but this is part of that Nietzschean culture of, well, mine's stronger because it lasted.
Well,
No.
the guy was he was he was an average guy, average intelligence. And a lot of these things that Pearl talks about, the statistics, things that Nick mentioned, and the theological implications of that, he had given zero thought to any of that. He was ill equipped to deal with any of that. And asked a direct question, he would not answer the question, but instead redirect and ask a different question back.
Yep.
Yeah. No amount of facts and logic will
Yes.
get through to a guy like that. And that's how he gets through. He just has blind faith, blind trust in his wife that I did it right and I'm Christian. Well, in
I
his
had the
case,
same. I
Catholic
thought the
Christian.
same way. Can't happen to me. God will see me through. God will fix all this. And well, sometimes his answer
Ooh.
is no.
Ooh. I just had maybe a thought that might sound heretical to some Christians. These guys think they're putting their faith in God in their relationships, but they're actually putting their faith in their wife. I wonder if, because I don't know if he understands that. Like Nick, you and I and Steve, we would recognize that there is a certain level of trust that you have to place in a woman to be your wife, and
Right.
that there's a 50-50 shot that she's going to break it for whatever the reason is. So we can look at it and we can say, oh yeah, no, you don't trust your wife, because and when she, and if and when she breaks it, like that's the thing. It's not, I mean, it's God's doing, but it's not God's, like, fault, right? It's not like it's not your fault for not believing enough in God, really, is what I'm trying to say, right? I
Right.
didn't
Well,
faith hard enough.
that's a theme that's kind of developed in the last, throughout our streaming, but we mentioned it on Monday. No, you really shouldn't implicitly trust your wife. You absolutely should implicitly totally love her. You're not required to trust her completely. So, yeah, there's a lack of trust because blind trust in a wife is not a good thing. Does anybody in authority, outside of marriage, just secular authority, the president or a general or a sergeant or a leader in business, does he have blind trust in his underling, his employee, his soldier? Uh,
No,
No.
you actually have to understand human nature, like Robert E. Lee's book on leadership talks about. No, you
okay.
got to implicitly, you have to understand that no, it's not always going to go the way you want, and the people under you will fail you from time to time.
Right. So you do not, I mean, you put faith in them. You have trustworthy people underneath you.
Mhm.
That trust is actually built up over time, but you also have safeguards in place in case they don't follow through or if they betray you. And the closer someone gets to you, the more uh what is it? That their betrayal is
It's
the more severe their
that much
betrayal.
more severe. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
so
if you don't trust them as much, take them into your inner sanctum of trust, you're kind of guarding yourself. You're going to be more vigilant. You're going to be more aware of catching things early. But a lot of men have implicitly trusted the wrong person in life, which is to their demise. And we can
Right.
absolutely say the thing about a man trusting a wife. She betrays him. And there's
50%
no
of the
wonder
time.
a lot of men end their lives.
Yeah. So I was, and well, and Steve, you were talking, or Steve, sorry, Nick, you were talking about generally. I was reading about Pickett's charge at Gettysburg recently,
Okay.
and I read that, and I was like, you, and historians have made different arguments for what went wrong,
Right.
but was the charge a bad idea just from a strategic and tactical standpoint? No, it actually wasn't. That's the kind of thing you had to do fighting wars back then. I believe it was. I actually think what was I can't remember his name. We were talking about him recently. The name just completely flipped. He's the guy who sacked
Stonewall
Vicksburg.
Jackson?
Stonewall, yes, Stonewall. He actually did something very similar during the sacking of Vicksburg, right? It wasn't the tactics that he used that failed, and you could say, oh well, Pickett failed. You could say, well, Pickett failed. Well, did he? No, these are complex. This was a complex battlefield situation where a bunch of things went wrong. They mistimed their artillery barrage and basically ran out of weaponry. And the Union general was smart enough to intentionally slack off his fire to make it look like it was working. Because the artillery was going over the heads of the so it all looked like it was working. But the point here is that you can do everything right. The other person, and we say this about war, but it's true with wives too. The other person still gets a vote.
Oh, I mean, they still have agency.
Yeah. Is it we and that goes back to, you can say just pray with her more. You know what? She still has the agency to wake up one day and say, you know what? Kevin in accounting's cock just looks too juicy. I'm going to go for it. There's nothing you can do. You can say, oh, well, but that just means you weren't praying hard enough. What am I supposed to do? Chain her to the house and pray all day? Yeah, you know
No,
what we
there was a
Well,
method that the Germans used against the Anabaptist wives that would keep leaving, trying to abandon their house and husband, and they'd go off to these meetings. No, they actually um,
it doesn't work.
chained them to the house.
And
Yeah, they
and
had
what
all these elaborate ways of escaping.
right, it doesn't work. There's nothing you can do. Yeah, right. So it's just this idea that you're going to. I think it's people are, and again, that this might be a bit on the heretical side, but I think that many in the church have substituted their wives for God, and I think that's what's driving some of this. Well, I mean, because we say be fearful of the Lord, right? That's a core tenet of Christianity. But all these men are walking around on eggshells, terrified of their wives. Well,
They
aren't you
pedestalized the pussy.
right? Well, okay, but isn't that kind of like making the woman your God?
Yeah,
Okay,
the fear of man. They
oh,
fear man
yeah.
more than God. They don't perform their duty as God's word says, but they do so as the cucks or the effeminate white knights in the church demand they do.
yeah.
The false shepherds, the wicked men.
Now I'm gonna draw a parallel here. And yes, I dare go here.
Uh-oh.
Uh
Canceled.
back in the day, in the blogging uh time of the manosphere. It was probably before it was called Red Pill. This, in the early days, were the pickup artists, and game was this new thing, and you had people teaching game, and there was a lot of discussions about use of game on women. Some guy said, "Yeah, great. I'm going to learn game. I'm going to use it for assisting in my marriage." Some guys said, "I'm going to learn game. I'm going to use it to go out and bang a bunch of those women." And there was a different group that says, "Nah, that's just stupid. We're not doing that because if you use game, you're going to have to do game 24/7 and you're going to be doing the dance monkey dance." And so
Oh, interesting.
it's kind of the same thing. I mean, there's valid points on all sides, but okay, taken to its extreme, the game, the pickup artists are actually subservient to the pussy in maybe the same in a parallel manner that the church guys. And if you think that you can use game to keep your wife faithful,
Heh.
yeah, that you can no man can keep that up. If like maybe it's a similar thing. If you think you can just use prayer to keep your wife faithful, I don't know. Can you pray enough? Can you pray enough with her? Can you game enough with her to keep her faithful? Now, I'm
So-
sure you guys have some thoughts there.
Well, my third category of dancing monkeys is actually some of the red pill guys out there. And shoo, that's why I brought up your comment.
Interesting.
Roosh is old guard red pill. I mean, he was big time red pill. It's hard to find a guy who's more red pill than Roosh. So there's like this guy's one of the greats. And oh yeah, he wrote an essay on how he became a clown for women. Because what always ends up happening is you look at it and you say, this works. I'm getting pussy. I should do more of this. And then you end up just becoming a slave to, well, I mean, yeah, it works, but it only works in the short term. It's right, just as Steve said, the guys over time have been who said, "Oh yeah, you'll have to game your wife forever, and it still won't work." They have been proven right over the course of history. We could call prayer Christian game. Ooh, there's some more sacrilege for you.
That's a good one.
Man. You should pray, but
Man, that's
you
almost
ritualize it.
sacrilegious.
I know it's that's why I'm the one saying it, not Nick.
I'll
But
say you should pray, but don't do it to be a dance monkey dance. It's like if I do this routine, it will save my marriage. It's like, oh, all of a sudden you're facing the routine, not in God anymore, right? Who you're supposed to be praying to, right?
oh, so
Oh.
don't put your faith in the routine. And so for the red pill guys, don't put your faith in the routine. The routine, yes, it might get you women. And look, maybe you're the kind of red pill guy who says, you know what? I don't ever want to be married to him and I don't ever want a long-term relationship. I just want a constant stream of fresh pussy. Then you know what? You'll be okay. But
Okay, that's what Roche had.
yeah. But
It was
that's
constant. It was a revolving stream until he reached the end and said, "Damn, this is an empty existence." He went looking for more and started to change because I was a follower of Roosh from the time he was a pickup artist until the end before he left the public eye. You know, very smart guy. I listened to a lot of his streams. But, you know, he saw that revolving door of women was empty. And then he stopped doing it. And you know what? He did it the right way. When he stopped, he stopped.
Oh, not like these
And then he
OnlyFans
talked
whores.
about it. And he thought about finding a woman, but you know, probably the answer was he'd done too much temporal damage to himself and everything, that was no longer God's plan for him, and it wasn't going to happen. Now, maybe he went out, left the limelight, went out and found a woman, and I hope so, because I respect the man. And his, what he learned and what he talked about, and yeah, his past is what it is.
Well, I think this gets to another point, though, that, okay, Roosh, one of the top tier players of the game, right? One of the very best in the business, so to speak. And even he's like, yeah, this just isn't doing it for me anymore. I'm just not that interested anymore. And I think a lot of young guys in particular, they come into the red pill and they say, oh yeah, I just want that pussy. I never want to ever get, long term. I never want, a legacy. No, I just want a constant stream of pussy. But and even if that ends up being the sum total of your life, and that's all it ever is, the vast majority of men, they don't want to do that. It's not what they want. And so when the red pill goes around saying, oh yeah, all you got to do is game your women, they're peddling short-term strategies. They're peddling strategies that work for 6 months. There are strategies in the red pill that will help you actually maintain a marriage, but it's not this. What helps you long term is not game, it's frame. It's being able to look a woman in the eye and say no. But you can't do that if you're a terrified Christian house husband, right? You can't do that.
Mm.
And so that's why I say this prayer thing has become the Christian version of game.
Is it the new chore play?
Yeah, it could be. For some of them.
I mean, I brought up this analogy on our after stream on Monday. So, game, man, and I'll say prayer too. It's great. It's probably necessary, as is prayer. But it's not the substance. It's the spice. Yeah. Know women, know how to game women, which basically means know how they react to things and know that they're emotional and you need to spike their emotions. And it's also a defense when they come at you with an emotional thing. You can use some game to keep your sanity so you're not swayed by their emotions.
Yes.
Game is useful as a defense and as an offense.
Yep.
Well, I guess you could say the same thing about prayer. Yes, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient. Game is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Yes, you know what? Don't be boring. You have a little game, but don't rely on your game to keep her 100% of the time.
So they're getting the cart before the horse, in some respect.
Well, to put it in Christian terminology, it's making an idol out of the act instead of worshiping God, you're worshiping prayer as the answer. No, God, like in Christianity, you would say, oh, well, God should be the answer. Well, okay, but instead you've made prayer the answer to your marital problems. Well, okay, but we see the same thing in the red pill. Oh, well, we've made game the answer to all our problems at the expense of frame. And I think that's been done a little bit as an expedient, because I can teach somebody game, but it's a lot harder to teach frame. Because
Okay,
go ahead.
Here's another way to look at it. Game is pursuit.
Yes.
You use game or pursuit to get the woman. Then once you have the woman, well, most of us guys get complacent. And we say, okay, I conquered. She's here. I don't have to do that anymore. And then she gets bored. No, you gotta, even if you wife her up, you still have to use some game to keep up the pursuit, because that's part of the larger game. And remember, she selected you
because
while
of
you
your
were pursuing her.
Yeah.
So you got to throw in a little bit of that the spice of pursuit once in a while, so she remembers the man she fell in love with. Yeah, it's probably oversimplistic, idealistic thinking, but yeah, whatever.
Well, I've talked to red pill guys who've been in long-term marriages. Thor and I even talked about this. The game, and here's another thing that I don't think that we talk about enough in the red pill. How you game your woman changes when you get married. You're going to use different tactics. You're going to apply them differently. You're like, it's a totally different world. And and in the red pill, well, I don't know, we could get into this topic. It would have to be for a different stream given where we are, but there is a faction of the red pill that is much more focused on the sort of short-term benefits that you can get from it. And I think that's kind of the dominant faction right now. We've talked to Shaw's talked about this. We've talked about this behind the scenes. Shaw mentioned Coach Greg Adams and his after pill is kind of like, okay, what do you do after the red pill? There is another red pill out there that is much less focused on the short-term culture. And I think this is, our culture has so glorified. I mean, going back to fame, we glorify and pay actors more than we pay the politicians who write the laws over us. So the politicians, if they want to get the same kind of money and status, they have to go take bribes from lobbyists. Again, I'm not saying that paying politicians more is the right answer, but what I'm saying is that we as a culture have elevated the fame seekers, the ultimate in dancing monkeys, where that's literally what they're trained to do, to the highest status in our culture. Okay. That isn't going to work for much longer, and I think that's why the short-term red pill has sort of become the dominant red pill, if you will. But I don't think that it's going to continue that way, because short term is short term. It means it comes to an end pretty quick. And I think it comes to an end when guys start figuring out that there's more to life than just an endless stream of pussy. I mean, sure, an endless stream of pussy can be fun for a few years, but men have realized that for a while. But it does seem that the consensus among the core of the red pill is that in our current world, marriage is not permanent. It's not long lasting. Women will not stay with you for the duration of your life. So make the best of it, either by a bunch of short term or a bunch of medium term serial monogamy. And here's how you can function in that world. Yeah. No, I think
would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I think that's, and I am not going to go so far as to say that that is an invalid answer. What I think it ends up being.
No, I didn't say that being critical.
No.
It's an observation.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy, on the surface, given the situation we're in.
Well, it is, but it creates, or not creates, it feeds into the long-term problems that the culture and society and the infrastructure is suffering from. It takes 20 years to raise a kid. 26 if you've got 3 or 4. That's a third of the average human lifespan. 26 years is a third of the human lifespan. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not saying that you say, okay, I will stay married just long enough, the kids are out the door, and then divorce. We're Christians. We're not saying that's okay. But also, a string of 1 year to 5 year relationships, what you're going to end up with is a bunch of single mommies. Oh, hey, look, what do we have right now? Oh, and then these
Still
single
raising
mommies.
bastard children.
Right. And then they raise,
don't know how
they
to
raise
act.
criminals. Women
Yep.
raise criminals. So we have the increasing incarceration rates. We have the increasing recidivism rates. We have the increasing just first-time criminal rates. All of these things are true because the guys didn't step back and say, you know what? This strategy works now, but it's not beneficial to me in the long term. And the reason I say it's not beneficial to me in the long term is because we're now seeing more guys getting unalived by criminals that were created by single mommies. Okay. So there is always a long-term consequence when you make choices like this. And we talked about this in a prior episode in Choice. And it I called it the choice effect on our streams. You can go back and watch that. When you make a choice to appeal to the short term, you are basically saying, not only do I not care about the long term, you're saying the long term doesn't matter. And then you want to turn around and complain about the collapse of society, or alternatively, you want to turn around and say, the society's collapsing. I'm just going to take what I can get right now and go, so it begets more short-term thinking. It begets even shorter term thinking.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. But here's some good news. At the core, men are still men.
Yep.
So we've seen in the last month where the women are going on this 4B strike. And they're throwing a little tantrum, a hissy fit. In general, the men are just sitting back and saying, yeah, okay, do what you want.
Whatever.
They don't care.
Ain't gonna bother me none.
And so, as opposed to, I guess some people, maybe some in the red pill, well, I'm a man and I will change when the women change. Yeah, you can wait a long time for women to come to their senses and change. It's not going to happen. But on the other hand, at its core level, women are throwing tantrums out there, and the men are laughing and saying, yeah, okay, whatever. And so the men are not following the women. But if we use the church model, we need to go out and minister to these women out there, and then bring the men to those women and have them, apologize to the women for voting wrongly. That's the church.
No.
That's the church solution.
Which is no more effective and probably even less effective. Given, and the reason I say that it's less effective is look at all the men leaving the church for the red pill. And we just got done saying that the red pill's short-term strategies probably aren't the right way to go about doing this. but they're more effective than what the church is doing. That's a tragedy.
Yep. That's sad.
You know, okay. Plutarch's going to love this one. The same men, same kind of men who are leaving the church to come to the red pill are the same kind of men in history that left their native countries and immigrated to the U.S. And what kind of men were that?
Well, they were the ones who wouldn't dance.
And they had skills.
Uh-huh.
They were willing to take risks. And in general, you've heard the brain drain.
Yep.
The brain drain is they immigrate to the U.S. We have more opportunity. Is there a brain drain from the church to the red pill?
Yes. Yeah. So, the short-term red pill, it's a good, there's a lot of good data in the red pill in general. And we agree with, that. We talk about it. We amplify it. But I think when it comes to the prescriptions, there is a red pill out there that is not quite so focused on short-termism.
Isn't there a married red pill?
That used to be on Reddit until Reddit decided to nuke anything with even around the concept of red pill. It's the one of the things that I think that the short-term red pill guys, they get a little bit into a bubble is most men are not interested in short-term solutions. Most men understand the value of long-term stability. And you do not achieve stability by bouncing off the walls and doing whatever works and being that dancing monkey. So, the red pill kind of looped back and made themselves dancing monkeys in the name of achieving pussy. Okay. But honestly, and I'll say this, if you're just being a dancing monkey to get pussy, great. All you're doing is dancing for the women. You're dancing to their tune. They can get a woman who knows, and I think this is going to be where the next big problem for men comes from. A woman who knows the red pill and has actually learned and studied it is going to see you guys dancing and going to go, aha, if I just give him this treat for that dance, I can get him to keep dancing and keep paying. Oh, wait, did I just describe a certain internet platform that starts with an O? I might have just described OF. OF is the response to the red pill.
Well, it's a response to society as well and where we're going.
Yeah, to short-term.
It's not only a response to the red pill, but yes, in general, yeah.
That method, that system is really what I'm trying to get at. Is the women will figure out, oh, all these red pill guys, if I just give them their treats every so often, they'll do exactly what I want them to do. They will dance for me. And
go
ahead.
Nick mentioned the married red pill. I don't think it exists anymore because those guys are all divorced. They probably joined the mainstream red pill.
It's very likely true, just because the divorce rates are what they are. Well, or one of two things, probably the guys who took what they needed from it, fixed up their marriages and fixed themselves up, and they don't need it anymore.
Yeah, that's probably more likely true, because when I got married, I just kind of left and lived my life.
Same here.
It's pretty good. Marriage is pretty good until it all came crashing to an end, and then I came back.
Yeah, that's being my first one is because I had been reading red pill content since probably 2008, maybe even earlier. Got married in 2012, got divorced 2014.
So you're not going to really have a married red pill.
Yeah.
Those guys cannot spare the time to come on and talk about things in the married way. It's really us losers that spend the time talking about this stuff. And
Hey, now I'm not a loser.
yeah.
I'm married.
Okay.
But you're hanging out with us.
Yeah, I'm slumming it, right?
No, I mean, very few
Steve,
people, they're living their lives. And
Steve,
so,
your okay
you know
was
what?
brilliant, though.
My what?
That okay you did was brilliant. Okay. Oh, I love that. Now, I said that with my tongue firmly planted in my cheek. I do not believe that. I do not believe what those Christian bros do. Of oh yeah, my marriage will be great. You know, no, she can still choose to leave whenever she wants. Tacticus. Ooh, that's a great question. We do need to. You know what? I hate to say it. Will marriage be normalized as short term? Given the legal structures that we have, probably. Although there is what I will say, Tacticus, is consider that the state has a significant problem staring down it's staring down the barrel of, and that is all these unmarriageable women hitting 40 that no one wants to marry anymore, and they will be headed towards welfare. They will, they have a kid, so they're getting alimony from SSA, or they're getting child support from SSA, right? The more of those there are, the harder it gets for the state to support them. So there is a chance that as a reflexive reaction to that problem, that the state says, no, we're actually going to make getting divorced harder. I don't know that they will. I am not promising this to you guys out there. I am saying that that is one possible response they could take. They could also go the response of saying, no, you have to marry, you guy have to marry these X number of women and you have to take care of them. We've talked about that on our streams on polygamy. Makes me want to vomit having to talk about it because I have one. She is, yeah, she is more than enough.
That one's enough.
Right. So, but that's another potential. But I don't know that short-term marriage benefits the state, and we know the church doesn't like it. So they're, and the church is in bed with the state. So this is kind of one where we're going to have to watch and see how it goes and see, which direction things go. It will depend on, as Steve was talking about at the beginning of the stream, what the economic outcomes are and what women choose to do themselves. Like if we get a good scarring economic depression that these women just, oh yeah, no, I've got to actually marry this completely fine average dude who probably actually has some, he's actually a pretty high quality dude. He just doesn't have the lifestyle. Right. And then they settle down and that could happen too. We don't know, but.
Well, let me build on that a little bit. No, it's not going to be short term because the economics don't work for the state. First of all, men need to be responsible for the economic paying for the children. Men have to be the pay pig for the children. And men actually need to be the pay peg for their ex-wives.
Yeah.
You know what? The whole system, the future, just falls apart. If you can allow short-term marriages and then get out where the man gets to keep his money and not be devastated, not be on the hook, for his wife in some manner or his children. Oh, what if it's 50-50? Yay, win for men.
Yep.
Oh, she's going to pay for half of it? Great. Oh, he's not going to be using my child support payment to pay for the kids and her lifestyle? I mean, if you're a middle class man paying, $1,000 a month for 2 kids, that chances are she's using some of that money. She's not using all of that money for the kids. Let's be serious. A lot of
Okay.
guys are paying more than that. So, no, the state cannot allow men to get off the hook.
Right. So I'm going to reframe my answer a little bit. The women would love to see marriage normalized as short term because then they could bounce around from dick to dick and collect cash and prizes as they go.
That's what
So-
they do anyways.
Well, I know, and so they would love, but the easier it is to get married and divorced, the quicker they can do it, the more they can collect.
Mm.
So there is an incentive for women to vote that way. Now that doesn't mean all of them will, but so that's what I'm saying. There is incentives out there for that to happen. If the Great Depression does come again, it won't happen because the money won't be there. The women will give up on that strategy. So, hey, send the meteor. But this brings up kind of a broader point about short-term cultures, and that is short-term culture, anything, and this is a great segue into kind of the final point, is always and everywhere only destructive. You cannot build something in the short term. How long does it take to design an airliner? It's about 10 years. The 777 took about 10 years of design work. And then they had to build the plants and actually start building the thing. Okay. These are complex machines that safely deliver millions of people around the world every day. They do their job and they do it well. It took a long time to build that. Or you can see China Inc. You can see, oh yeah, I had to buy a new blender because the motor burned out because it wasn't properly designed and built. And I have to do that every 6 months because that's just the way things are. That's short-term culture. Okay, short-term culture cannot build. And if our message is ever going to be, men, we need to get together and we need to rebuild the infrastructure. We need to, we need to improve the physical plant of the United States. That's all fine and good. You must drop the short-term culture. You're going to have to start building for quality again. And that means you're going to have to start building for quality in marriages again. And that means you can't do short-term. It means you have to make the short-term hard. So because short-term culture is unwilling to consider long-term results, it's only willing to consider what it can get for itself here and now. We do kind of have a choice ahead of us as a culture. Do we want to continue to be a short-term culture? If we do, the term here, almost like a bond term, will just keep getting shorter and shorter because it has to.
Well, short-term marriage would imply an even lower birth rate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
Less than
society
one.
would collapse.
Yeah, yes.
And maybe we're going there.
It's
But-
possible.
Once it collapses, then things get so bad that it returns to a traditional setup. Now, I don't know if you guys remember a few years back, Occupy Wall Street.
Yes, I do.
E. Michael Jones went and visited some of those encampments. And one of the things he said is, gee, they reverted back to the traditional division of work. These encampments were a little bit Wild West, unsafe. So what happened? The women hooked up with one man in their tent. She did the domestic chores, the cooking, the cleaning, and he protected her, and he went out and did the protesting. And man, it just magically got traditional.
For a more recent example, I don't know if y'all remember the Chaz chop during 2020 up in Seattle. Very similar things happened. Very similar things happened. They were trying, because it was, they were barricaded in this area, so they were trying to grow their own food, and it's a bunch of women growing the food, and the guys are the ones out there with the, on the borders of this encampment, defending it from the evil police. But it's same thing. Natural order cannot be denied. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be removed. It simply is, and always will be. Yeah, until the heat death of the universe, but that's a different problem, and not one for us today. So, what I would say to men is, yeah, you can chase short-termers. You can chase a short term, and you will get what you want. But 10 years from now, when you're being held at gunpoint in your local bodega or gas station, there you go. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed your short term.
Plutarch, I'm so glad we had this topic tonight so we could have a short stream and not go 2 hours like our other streams.
My notes were short this time. I was thinking short notes, short stream, right?
It's not always how it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have covered pretty much everything I was planning on getting to tonight. So, we beat up on the church a little bit. Yeah, we beat up on the
we beat up
grifters.
on the red pill.
Yeah, we beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a little, I guess. And okay, for the red pill guys, we're not saying these things because we hate you. We're not saying these things because we think you're bad or evil. We're saying these things because, well, there's more to it than that. And you might have gone a little far down one path that a lot of guys, I think a lot of guys are going to look at it and go, yeah, that's not for me.
Hey, we're just having some normal pushback that happens between friends, between men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, disagree. Bring with this point, with that point. Let's discuss it. No, I don't hate you. No, I don't think you're entirely wrong. I see things a little differently. Okay. Let's either just ignore it or let's discuss it.
Yeah.
The Red Pill's defense, we're attacking some of their prescriptions. This is not the data. This is their ways of how to use the data for their own purposes. So
are you saying we actually do have an issue with some of the prescriptions?
Yeah, some of them.
Sure. Yeah.
And they probably have issues with ours.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they would probably tell us that we just, who cares? My personal favorite is, who cares? The world's falling apart. Why don't you just go get yours? It's like, and to which I have to say, fuck your decline. We're 2 hours in. I can say that. One of the reasons I'm speaking out and saying stuff like this, because I am done with short-term culture. And I happen to know that my generation, in the majority, is done with short-term culture. They grew up in it. They were born to it. They look around at all the damage it's caused, and they're all collectively trying to figure out how to not do that. And the millennials, by 2028, somewhere between 2028 and 2030, will be the largest generation on the planet. If you can't figure out how to message to them, you just don't matter. And I think one of the greatest tragedies would be the red pill becoming irrelevant. the red pill becoming ignored, because it doesn't understand the generations it's speaking to. It doesn't understand what the younger generations really want. The millennials, more than anything else, and I've talked with Elaine about this, and you'll probably see her start even doing more comments, videos on this, is the there's the concept of stability. The millennial generation and Gen Z too, in fact, even more so, prioritize stability over all else. And short-termism cannot, by definition, cannot deliver that for them. So you have to decide what's more important to you. You can say, oh yeah, nope, I just want my pussy, and I'm going to do the short-term thing. And I'm going to say, that's great. You are going to be of increasingly less relevance as time goes on. That is just the way of things. That's just the way it's going to be. And you can't stop it. Or you can.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I'm going to take a different approach. I don't care what you decide. The world is going to decide for you.
Yes. Yeah. That's
what
I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You know what? If times get tough and we say, oh, then the women are going to need the men. Guess what? The men are going to need the women too. Just almost as much as a woman needs a man is going to need a woman when times get tough.
Yeah.
And you won't have the free time, the money, the energy to pursue a lot of women. And it won't work because in those times, the women will be latch on to one man. So there won't be all the free range women out there.
Yep.
Plus, you know what? In order to survive, a man has always kind of needed a woman at home to do the woman stuff. Well, he's out doing the man stuff.
Yeah. And that's
it's symbiotic.
That was what my or was going to be. So well said, Steve.
Wait, aren't the robots going to replace all that?
No. Anyway. Next, humanoid robots. Most of what you see, so like the Tesla stuff and all that, like there's actually a human over on the other side that's actually doing the movement, and the robot's just recreating it. Autonomous humanoid robots that actually do their own thing is not a thing right now. Yeah, Tacticus, yeah. Leadership is we need it for long-term culture. Yeah, I completely agree. That's why we're having this conversation tonight. And that's just a great point. Short-term culture doesn't need leadership. It just needs a bunch of people going out trying to get whatever they can from it. You don't have to build
roided and rich.
Yeah, exactly.
Roided and rich dancing monkeys.
Yeah. Ripped, rich, and whatever it is, ripped, rich, and roided, or
somebody
whatever.
had that point in the chat. So
yeah, well, it was probably. I think it was Tacticus. Yeah, there we go, right there.
Okay.
It's right. You don't need. I don't need men who can be leaders. And interestingly enough, here's another thought. Good, Tacticus, you're just rolling tonight. Short-termists do not benefit from men who can lead. Men who want short-term gains do not benefit. Men who can actually lead interrupt the short-term game. They diminish it. They diminish its effectiveness. Because for every man that can lead, there's 10 who will follow. And if they start following that guy and they start they start doing and they start building, they're not paying attention to the short term anymore. They're not paying attention to the dancing monkey. And the women won't be paying attention to the dancing monkey either. So yes, Tacticus, you are correct. Leadership is absolutely necessary. It is something that we are missing in this culture.
We had 2 episodes on it. Yep.
Yeah. And we'll probably do more. We'll
Yeah.
probably do more because we like to go back and go over topics again. So there
just
we go,
got a-
guys.
I just got an interesting thought.
Go for it.
The shit hits the fan, and or milder, and all of a sudden you need each other, and you get 10 men together the first time, or you
Mhm.
assemble the crew. What's the first order of business?
Well, somebody has to decide what to do. So that guy's probably going to be the leader.
Oh, yeah, we got to decide. Okay, who's our leader?
Uh-huh.
Oh, so that's like what they did in
And-
the Rangers in the Confederacy. So they had to elect their local leaders, and they would scatter and then rearrange. Huh,
Yeah.
interesting.
But okay, now imagine you are in that group of 10 men. You're going, nope, don't pick me. Don't pick me. I don't want to be in charge of this.
I'm just here to get what I can get.
No, I just don't want the responsibility
Yep.
of leading. I will be your most
Right.
devoted follower. I will be your lieutenant. I will be your advisor.
Yeah.
But no, don't pick me. You know what?
That's most men.
I'm just thinking about myself. And that's what's happening in the church too. No, don't pick me. I don't want to be the leader. I just want to be the faithful follower. And that happens in society. No man really, well, the good men don't want to step up to be the leader.
Yep.
It's a narcissist, a psychopath,
Our
men
politicians.
who shouldn't lead, who step up and say, yeah, pick me. I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah. But when the shit hits the fan, even in a depression, people stop paying attention to the psychopaths, and they start looking for people with answers. And even if you're not a leader and you don't want to be a leader, you come up with an answer, people are going to, and that works, people are going to go, you, more of that. Tell us what to do.
Right. Yep.
So, yeah, leadership and short-term culture don't get along. So let's make more leaders. Let's push back against short-term culture. Darn it, 2 hours.
Here we go.
And here I thought, short notes, relatively simple concept. Oh boy, how'd that work out for me?
Yeah, we got to give our faithful audience enough.
Hey,
It'll
they've
probably
stuck
be,
with it tonight. We have to give our audience a shout out for sticking with us for 2 hours. But
oh, yes, for random ramblings.
yeah, yes. You had to listen to the three of us ramble for 2 hours about
Dancing
Which-
monkeys.
about what should be a relatively simple concept. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking with us. This was another fun one. We've had fun this week. So
Yep.
this is kind of nice. I think particularly in the aftermath of the election, it was just so, well, we've got to talk about all this stuff. And now we can really get back to the things that we enjoy talking about. So, well, that's all I have for this evening. You guys have anything else you want to add?
No.
No.
All right. Well, we will see you next Monday. I have no idea what that stream is going to be. I know Nick put an idea. I don't. It's that more a Wednesday one. You said, Nick. I think you said that was
Oh,
more
yeah,
of a
Wednesday. I'll be driving Monday, so
Okay, so it might just be Nick and I, or sorry, Steve and I. Steve, you had thrown out the idea of doing a talk. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but the two red pills, you threw that out there as an idea. That might make a good Monday show.
Yeah.
So there we go, guys. As best we know at this moment in time, we will be talking next Monday about the two red pills, and then Nick, what was your idea again for the audience for Wednesday?
Oh, I think there's a kind of controversy going around. I think wasn't it about um oh, I don't know what did
Reporting
I say?
church elders and reporting. I don't remember what the reporting was, but reporting men and elders. It was something
Oh,
along those.
reporting men for yeah.
Is it for you? I think you said man bad, but you might have meant SA or just abuse. Yeah, he's got to go read through his notes.
I got so many different texts here.
Right. Well, we have so many
don't even-
ideas.
We
We're not
pass
done yet.
ideas back and forth, and I come up with ideas. I text him, and then you ask me, "What was that idea?" during a stream. No, I can't remember it because I'm
remember
focused
anything.
on the topic today.
Yeah, I know. I put you guys on the spot at the end of our streams. I know.
Biblical elders thing we do.
Yeah, it was something about biblical elder or reporting men and to the elders or something. Guys, he'll figure it out. It's going to be a church-based
Yep.
stream on Wednesday.
It'll be
Probably.
something good.
Yeah. I know it doesn't sound like it, but we actually have tons of ideas. One of our problems is scheduling who's going to do what when. And so then we forget who's,
Yes.
what we were planning on doing. So yeah, next Monday, the 2 red pills, then Nick will be up on Wednesday. And you know what, guys, if you enjoyed the stream, give it a like. There's probably something in here that other men need to see. So please give it a share if you have a man in mind. Our mission here is to put out ideas for men that they can actually use and that can actually help them. And not just help them, but help the rest of our society as well. So, give it a share. If you disagree with us, leave us a comment. We promise that if it doesn't go through, it's not us. We've had a few now where people are leaving comments and YouTube won't let us see them. So that's not us. There's probably something in that comment that YouTube doesn't like. I do know that they don't like it when you put emails and web links in there. Those get so if you put your email address or a link to a website, those get automatically deleted. So yeah, that's not us. That is YouTube doing YouTube. Yeah, and if you want to hear more, go ahead, give us a subscribe. You don't have to. We don't mind. So
Oh, Elena doesn't want to be left out. Yeah.
no, she doesn't.
We have discussions on Saturday morning on Elena's channel, Elena's Bar Fitness. And, well, I'm usually there. Occasionally, Plutarch is there. Most of the time, Nick is there. And, then there's a woman in our discussion. That makes it a little bit different.
All right. Well, I think that's it for today. We will see y'all on Monday.